Okay, let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, no, nothing, no writing, no questions. Let's just jump straight to the illustrations. Okay, I'm going to reduce the size of this so we can fit it within the window so my comments make sense. Okay, Calista, I think at this point, I think we're really, really underdeveloped. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the techniques we're using are we're not really showing good control of the pen tool and or the pencil tool or the brush tools. Right now, there's a lot of converging lines that just really don't make sense. Okay, so for example, is this a shoulder right here? And this, it's just not clear. We got a lot of overlapping lines. We've got a lot of color protruding outside the contour line itself. So this all points to a little bit of a lack of control in your illustrative techniques. I think at the very least, we are very, very underdeveloped in terms of illustrative technique, and specifically regarding to the establishment of depth, dimension, and volume by using things like shadow and highlight areas. And I think that it's really, really apparent that the illustrations themselves are more in the development stage than in the final presentation stage. We see things like, okay, like the legs of the grill, really super underdeveloped. We see this, which is, I think it's a spatula, but these lines here don't indicate as such as a spatula. We've got the steak on the grill, but the steak on the grill shouldn't look just like the steak she's thinking of. It would draw a really good connection there. Um, then we don't really see, we go from this to this. So we don't know what this is. So for example, how do we know this is a drawer? I would say that in between this frame and this frame, add an illustration of her walking into her kitchen or approaching a drawer, okay? And so making a connection between the main character and the actual drawer itself. One thing you could possibly even just show, if this is the drawer, let's give it some perspective, give it some depth. Okay, right now it just looks like something with a pink frame. Not sure about the items in the drawer itself. Okay, so that again, all these converging lines and overlapping lines are really difficult to tell what's happening in this drawer. Like, for example, it almost resembles a hammer, but not quite all the way. Then over here, this looks like a basketball, but it's hard to tell. This looks like maybe a piece of asparagus, I'm sorry, a piece of broccoli or something, but again, hard to tell. And so it's really difficult to tell exactly what's going on. Over here, you've got this stray line. Over here, you've got these stray converging, overlapping lines. So again, this points to a lack of control in the pen tool and or pencil or brush tools that you're using. And then finally, I think that there's not enough frames in the narrative. The narrative is very much incomplete. With only 7 frames, I think there's a lot of detail left out of here. Again, pen tool control, we're showing these two, this fork and this knife, just really need to be established as a fork and a knife and not maybe like this just kind of a beginning rendering of what that was. Because I think that the piece is coming along nicely in terms of a work in progress. But as far as final completion, I think we're considerably underdeveloped, as I said before. Also, watch your color harmonies. I think that pink in the background is overwhelming the composition to the point where it's grabbing most of the hierarchy and pointing in a direction that leads to not what's happening in the narrative, but what's happening behind the narrative in those background shapes. I would reduce the intensity of that specific color and maybe even the color itself. I think it's really, really high contrasting, which creates a little bit of visual vibration. And then over here, I guess we see this line overlapping, and then the star is away from her shirt, shouldn't it be on her shirt? Again, so we're just looking at just a little bit more detail in here, a little bit more time spent on this, a little bit more control in the pen tool and or pencil and or brush tools, and establishing depth, dimension, and volume by using shadow and highlight areas, and then really getting control over the narrative by presenting enough frames that the viewer is able to follow without any questions, such as this, what is this, and how do we get from here to hear. Okay, so if you've got any questions at all, please let me know. I'll be glad to make any clarifications. But yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing the final detailed piece. Thank you very much.